day, everyone, and thanks for staying with the McAllen Cable Network. I'm Roxanne Lerma. Now, it's definitely that time of year. We're inundated with lots of information about colds and flu and the swine flu and H1N1, but how do you separate the fact from the fiction? Well, to help us out with that, Mr. Eddie Olivarez, our expert from Hidalgo County, our health director, and our very own health director here in the city of McAllen, Josh Ramirez. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Roxanne, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Good, I'm glad it's a pleasure. So we've been hearing a lot about H1N1, and then we hear swine flu and influenza. How do you differentiate?
Well, I think the easiest way to look at it, there's many forms of influenza. There's type A influenza, type B influenza, and the H1N1 thing, the H's and N's, there's like 15 H's and there's like 20 N's, and any combination is amazing.
The whole alphabet we have.
Yeah, pretty much all
okay,
that's right.
So H-I-J-K.
Just to give you an example, like the seasonal flu, everyday flu is H3N2. But this year we have.
I'm not going to remember.
Yeah, I know. But this year we have, H1N1 as well. So, but the good news is the vaccine that's being used this year to prevent influenza has both of the combinations in there to be able to prevent and to be able to deal with both types of influenza. So if you have your vaccine, you're covered pretty well for this year.
So we were talking a little earlier, and I have 4 kids, and I think as parents, do we want to get the flu shot? Do we not? What do you think, Josh? I mean, what do we want to tell our residents?
Well, we stress our citizens to get the vaccine. You might as well just be prepared for the season. You never know. You might get it, you might not. So might as well just be covered. Of course, we talk about hygiene is important. Wash your hands after sneezing, covering yourself. Wash your hands frequently. We touch a lot of items here and there. We open doors. We touch pencils, pens here and there. We gotta wash our hands because we don't know how many people have touched the same items. And that's where we get the illnesses from. Okay, not that Eddie gave it to me because he was sitting too close to me. No, a lot of times
Eddie won't give it to you. Eddie only fist bumps.
and Eddie fist bump. A lot of times it's just by the same air that we breathe within the same location. So we have to be conscious about those things and educate our children and tell them you gotta wash your hands. And if you're gonna sneeze, you gotta cover yourself as well, and cough into your hands, or cough into your arm as well. You gotta take those precautions to protect those that we love, especially the elderly and the children.
So if you're a little under the weather, and I mean you don't want to be rude,
right?
But if you're feeling a little sick, it's probably not a good idea to go in for the hug and the kiss or the handshake.
Correct. That's our responsibility as a person. We gotta, I felt this morning kind of ill. Could be allergies, could be this cold. I don't know for sure, but tell you, if I respect you enough and I love you enough, I'm saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to fist bump you today. I don't feel well today.
Right.
And it's understandable, but we need to make that common practice for us.
Okay. So, Eddie, we've been hearing about the H1N1. Is there a cause for concern in Hidalgo County?
Well, we're not on an epidemic level. We're not on an outbreak level compared to 2009 when we had a very, very, very serious epidemic component to H1N1. It is the same type of strain. It is the same strain as 2009. And one of the concerns we have is that this year we really took a very aggressive preventative and interventive stance on it, where I'm asking that all of us in the community, we work closely with Josh and his team, with the City of McAllen, and with all the media organizations, that we all unite and come together and provide a very strong preventative educational package that we as a community and as residents in McAllen and in Hidalgo County, we all can do our due diligence to keep it from becoming an epidemic or an outbreak by all doing our part. Get your vaccine, follow the 4 C's that we just talked about, follow through on that. That is very important. And I think the most important thing is do not downplay this illness, because right now we also have a very serious respiratory infection going on in our community.
Okay.
It's a bacterial infection. So a lot of people confuse bacterial infections with viral infections. So they say, well, I'll just go buy some penicillin and take the penicillin and use that.
Probably not the best idea.
Not the best idea.
Yeah.
Because they need to get a medical consult. And the penicillin does not work on a virus. It deals with bacteria, but you have to get the consult. But when you get both of those illnesses, the respiratory and the H1N1, and they unite as one big major illness, it becomes like a super illness. And then you have some very serious illness that may require hospitalization.
Okay, so what is the status right now in terms of cases so that folks know exactly what we're up against?
Sure. In Hidalgo County, influenza is not required to be reported. It is not a reportable illness. But Hidalgo County Health and Human Services and our surveillance team has taken an active surveillance stance where I have our teams following through and communicating with the doctor's offices, the larger physician practices, the hospitals, the pharmacies, et cetera, to get an overall pulse of H1N1 in our community. That way we could align our preventative efforts to those areas that seem to be spiking.
Okay.
A lot of focus in elementary schools, for example. We do a lot of focus on those areas right now.
Is there something that we want to say to our residents about the people that may be most susceptible, Josh? I mean, is it, the younger generation or the older generation that we're looking at, or just everybody in general?
Well, as Eddie was saying earlier, we need to make sure stress the importance of the preventive to everybody. Our elderly are more susceptible as we know it. We need to be constantly and continuously monitoring them. How you feeling today, Mom? How you feeling today, Grandma? Well, I feel a little sick. Okay, what are you taking? Have you seen the doctor? If not, let me take you to see the doctor. Or get someone to take that person to the hospital, to the doctor, before you take them to the hospital. And that's one
so
of the
that
things
we don't saturate our hospitals.
Right, and that's what I was, Eddie and I spoke earlier, that our hospitals a lot of times get saturated with all these people that got a little paper cut, got a little feeling sick, something, I'm gonna go to the hospital. The hospital is for patients that are critically ill, and we want to protect our hospitals as well, because when we need a hospital is when we have serious illnesses and serious problems in our body. And that's what we want to make sure, that our hospitals are protected and not saturated with all these minor things that a physician can take care of very well. Our doctors are very trained and specialized in many fields of expertise in medicine, that they can tell you exactly what medicines you take for your body. That's why we stress that you visit your doctor.
How important is it? That's where I was going to go next. I mean, how important is it for us to turn to our physician? Because, and I'm guilty of it, I might have a little cough and might be sneezing and I don't feel that bad. But how important is it for us to go to the doctor?
It's extremely important. And the reason it's important because your doctor has your medical history. Your doctor has a very clear understanding of the illnesses you've had over the last several years. They also have a very different training and a different model in dealing with how do you intervene on an illness. A lot of times our own home cures and our own local thinking of how we could take care of it.
Yeah.
It's fine to
with
make
Vicks.
you. Yeah, with Vicks. I mean, Vicks fixes everything.
Right, Vicks and socks. It fixes everything.
It fixes everything. But the reality is that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is not a cure. That is to lessen the symptom, to make you feel emotionally better. But the reality is the cure comes from the physician, from the medical intervention. And that's what's real important that we need to let people know, because there is a whole new arena of new medications, of new treatment models that can be used that might be easier, quicker to be able to deal with this illness.
Okay, so get to your physician. Now, lastly, Josh, can you give us just some final recommendations and good hygiene practices that we can all do, starting with our very own employees and then, trickling down to our residents?
It's what they tell us since kindergarten: wash your hands all the time. And that's the most critical part in our lifestyle. As long as you wash your hands after touching so many items, and that will help us a lot. Of course, cover yourself when you're coughing, sneezing. Okay, don't spread it through everybody so everybody can get it.
Right.
And that's going to be very helpful in itself. I always tell my kids as well that your best friend should be your doctor as well, because he's the one who's going to take care of you.
I like that.
I got my teenager daughters, and they're like, well, talk to your doctor about how you feel, because he's going to be your next best friend for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because we need to have that trust in that doctor, that he's going to take care of our bodies so they know exactly how to treat us.
All right, so it starts at home.
Yes.
All right. Josh, Eddie, thank you so much for being in the studio with us. We really appreciate it. Lots of valuable information. At home, wash your hands, maybe sneeze into the arm.
Yep.
And I don't know, you might want to implement the fist bump. For the city of McAllen, I'm Roxanne Lerma.